What's up, Rockstars? Today I have the great pleasure of bringing you my review of Esopya. This is on Kickstarter right now at the time of publishing this video, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. As always, before we get into things, thank you so much to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this channel is possible. That's because I bring all the content that I want to bring and cover the games I want to cover in the way I want to cover them without relying on payments from other game companies. And that is all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much for the freedom that you bring to this channel so that I can be community driven and passionate about every video and everything that I talk about. Guys, thank you so much for that. If you can give and you wish to, even $1 a month, you get a lot of cool benefits. And it helps me out a lot. There's a link down in the description below. With that out of the way, let's talk about Esopya for the rest of this video. And I spoiler warning, this is going to be a pretty positive review. Very much enjoyed this game. Alright, now I'm going to go into the nitty gritty. But first of all, just so you kind of know essentially how this game is played. You have a shared mana card. A shared mana deck that you can draw more mana from, because what you do is on your turn you gain 5 mana and then you can spend that on the cost of the mana, which is at the top of your cards that you have available. You have creatures that you lay down on the board here, typically in the first row in front of you, and then you have your realm of 20 health. It can never go higher than 20. If it reaches 0, you lose. And then you have some support buildings and cards that you can go in there as well. So you get 5, and then you can choose to draw from your deck to draw another card of your card, or from the shared mana pool and get some extra mana. At my luck, I get a 1. Let's see if I get any more. Nope, a 1. I'm telling you, this might not be shuffled actually. No, a 5. Totally shuffled. So you could get anywhere from 6 mana up to actually 11 mana, because some of them will have a die roll where you get to roll a 6-sided die and get that much extra mana. Mana does not carry over from one turn to another, so spend it wisely. But if you have an expensive card or you want to lay down a whole bunch of stuff, sometimes drawing more mana is more beneficial than drawing extra options. Either way, once you spawn them, they have essentially a suspension. They can't act right away. That's pretty typical unless they have readiness. It's kind of like a haste where they can then start going right away. But on their turn, normally they can move however much as their movement, and then attack. It's always in that order. Move, and then attack, not attack, and then move. They'll have a whole bunch of special stuff on the bottom there. We'll talk about that throughout there. That's where the meat and potatoes of this game and most card games are. The rules are fairly simple, and then it's the interactions and the words on the cards that really matter. But they have flying, they have shield that halves damage, you can deactivate all the abilities of enemies, you can, put debuffs on them, you can place spells on them. You cannot directly attack the realms unless you are adjacent to it. So you have to get all the way to the other side of it on your opponent's first line, and then you'll be able to attack. Now, when you're in here and you're attacking other things, you can attack in adjacent lines. So somebody on this can attack anywhere on this. So this person could attack a person over here and vice versa. You don't actually have to be like card to card or anything like that. There are some abilities that will reference the actual edges of the card. Again, that's all on the card and those kind of special rule cases there. But for the most part, that's the considered adjacent. So the middle can attack both behind them and in front. And if you have range, you can attack farther out, all the way up to 3 on your home row, all the way up to the support cards. Still not the realm, though. You have to be adjacent to attack that. And then that's really it. They have their equivalent of Death Touch. If you know Magic the Gathering, they have Lethal, and they have a whole lot of other stuff, and then some unique mechanics as well. But in general, that's it. You pick whether or not you draw from your deck or your mana, you play down your cards, you play them, and that's really the gist of it. The only other thing that I think really differentiates this, that I want you to keep in mind for the review, because I want to talk about a lot of mechanics in this review, is that you don't have to summon right away. So in a lot of card games, you do your summoning or you do your kind of card placement, and then you play them. And this one, if you notice right now, I couldn't play anything here anyway, even if I wanted to, but I could choose to go ahead and start moving people and attacking them. Now, once you activate activate that card, you activate that card, and they have to move and attack and finish their activation. But now I can summon afterwards. So sometimes it's beneficial to get things out of the way. Sometimes it's beneficial to line things up or do various other things so that when you lay the card down, especially because some of them have a placement ability where it happens when you place them down. So the area matters, perhaps the board state matters there. So you can kind of intermix summoning, and you can spend that mana throughout your whole turn. So you could summon at the very end, you can summon once, do some activations, summon later, that kind of thing. And you'll play spells and stuff like that too. But that's Esopya in a nutshell. It's literally that easy to explain. I know I went through that pretty quick, but you have the gist of it now. So let's talk about the game itself and a lot of my opinion. As with any card game, I think the deck building is fun, and that's super important. So really happy to see that I enjoyed all the deck building I did. I did quite a bit of it. And that's because the deck variety is nice. You can do buff central, defense heavy, flying heaven, add spam, spell-tastic decks. You can do a wide variety of different things for the decks and how you kind of theme them, and I really enjoyed that and felt that they all can be kind of dynamic in how they feel when playing them. Also, there are great combo choices, both multi-turn and within your own turn. You can do different combos, different sets where if you do certain things in a certain order, certain things happen, and that's always enjoyable to do, I think. Definitely something I seek out in any card game, and a positive here as well. Also, everything feels strong. You can do stuff like deactivate, where you get rid of every special ability they have. You can add a shield having the damage. You can do double attacks. There's a ton of very strong things here, and no card feels wasted. That's partly due to health that doesn't regenerate. More on that later, but suffice to say, every single card you play is worthwhile, and you feel it's worthwhile. You don't ever feel like you're wasting a turn playing a card. They're all viable. Picking between drawing a mana card and a deck card is a nice choice. I really enjoy that. It's essentially giving you a mana ramp on demand. It's essentially part of the combo that you choose in your turn, and I really did enjoy that. I thought that was really nice. Damage that sticks is very nice. I kind of already mentioned that. The fact that your damage doesn't heal up means that all attacks are worthwhile. If you did any damage, that is something. It doesn't heal back. It doesn't go away. That damage is there for the most part. There are ways around that, of course, but I really enjoyed that. And part of what makes each combat feel impactful, and it means you don't have some card there that's ultra powerful that you can't deal with on the opponent's side or something like that. You can always deal with anything you see, which is quite nice. I do really enjoy that. Support units are also nice. Healing the back row. You can throw quicksand at people to keep them in place. You can add various buffs, etc. They're all very strong to the point where often you'll want to attack a support building before the realm, and attacking the realm is what wins you the game. They can be that strong, and I really enjoyed how viable they were and how important they were in a deck building process. Adjacency requirement to attack the realm is a very smart idea. It means you can't range attack them from far away. And it means that that little area in front of your realm is very, very important. And you definitely want to keep people away from there. It means that flyers have to go there and fly down. You know where people are going to be if they are attacking your realm, and you can plan accordingly. It's a nice little part of the game, a little meta part that I quite enjoyed. Additionally, some abilities on cards actually have you rolling for the effect. I liked that. For the most part, it's a 4+, a 3+, or a 2+, which means you always have at least 50% chance or better of getting the effect. And it's a nice little change of mechanics so that it feels very different from the other mechanics. And I like the kind of side, okay, let's roll real quick. I rolled, okay, now we're done. It doesn't take too long. It's not necessarily difficult. It's just one die, but it's something that adds a little bit of spice, a little bit of variety to the gameplay. And because it's never worse than a 50%, I was quite happy with doing so and the results that I got accordingly. Obviously, the unique card abilities are cool. There is a frog that blows up in this game. There are all sorts of wacky, crazy, cool little things on these cards that allow them to do special things that are quite nice, from swapping their health and their power to swapping your health and your power to buffing others around it to making it to where if you move next to them, you get hurt, and all sorts of other interesting things that can happen. There's a wide variety, too much to list here, that I really did enjoy. The realm powers are also great, and they're varied. Every single one is a little bit different. They all play differently. You can only do them once per game, and it's the only thing you do in that turn, but it can be a game changer. You could kill everything in your home row, yours and theirs, and then deal that much damage back to the realm based off how many died. You can clear the board. You can buff your entire board. You can spawn a whole bunch of guys. You can take other people's units and suddenly now they're yours, and they gain haste or readiness so they can attack right away. There's a huge amount of variety there. It's a nice little catch-up mechanic. There are some that you want to do ahead of time even too, so that's how varied they are. Like there's one that allows you to potentially get cards back into your hand as they die, so the earlier you play that, the better. And so there's a lot around that is just cool to kind of incorporate that in your deck building process. Keep that in mind and know that you always have that trick up your sleeve if you need to do so. So I really did enjoy that as well. One of the standouts of all of the abilities I felt was Heritage. It has an effect, but it's based off when you die. And the biggest thing it does, besides the fact that it does a variety of things, is when your opponent is attacking you and you have Heritage, it makes them resistant to attacking you. That coupled with the various abilities you could have either from Heritage or from being in the discard pile or from just dealing damage and having damage stick, it makes it to where you're actually a little cautious in attacking. You don't necessarily want to just blindly attack stuff. You're not going to heal back up. It's not like Magic the Gathering or a game like that. You definitely don't want to just attack willy-nilly because you could get very hurt or even die from it, especially through multiple attacks like that, which I thought was quite nice. So the Heritage mechanic and what that summarizes, I think, was quite nice. There are a few negatives when it comes to that deck building, though. There are some repeated cards. For instance, pretty much every single faction has a 2-cost 2/2 with range as a fighter. So you'll see a lot of that. You'll also see a lot of support buildings that generate a mana and a few other things as well. Especially if you look at it closer, you'll see that all of these cards really the same. It just has a different name and maybe some different art. But otherwise, it's really the same card just repeated. And I would like to see at least some variety. Maybe a 2-cost card that's a 2 range. But it's a 1/3 instead of a 2/2. Another one's a 3/1 instead of a 2/2. So now you have 3 different versions of essentially the same stats, but moved in different ways. It makes it a little bit more interesting, perhaps. Rarity feels really weird power-wise as well, and that's kind of an odd thing I have struggled to get my head around. Because every card is powerful, there are some common cards I feel that are much stronger than some of the ultra, rare cards that you can only have one of in your deck. And so it felt a little weird to have that. I'm assuming the game is still balanced around this, so I don't think it breaks the game or anything. It's just a little odd to kind of view these as like, oh, this one you can't have more of, even though I feel they're not actually that much stronger than ones you can have 3 of. I felt moving around the board actually wasn't impactful often enough. So it can be impactful and it does happen, but it's certainly not every turn, and it's certainly not to the extent that I would have liked it. In fact, I feel there were whole games where the only big impact was obviously the home row and kind of moving through that to your opponent's home row and stuff like that. But I mean, for the most part, it's a little bit not as impactful because the attack is pretty much by rows. So one row can attack another row, and you don't have to be necessarily adjacent to them. There's a few cards that matter where anything directly adjacent to them. So on one of the 4 facing the top, bottom, left, or right matter, but that's literally only one card that I saw. And so I would like to see more cards like that to make it a little bit more impactful, perhaps. Now, one thing this game does do is it does follow the recent tendency of putting a small bit of art in a circle on the card as opposed to filling the card as much as possible with art. I'm very much on the camp of fill that card with as much as possible with the art that you have, as opposed to kind of encapsulating it in a circle. I feel I'm either too zoomed out away just to see everything, or everything's cut off and I'm only seeing like half of a person because you can't fit the rest of the art in there. So definitely would have preferred a little bit less wasted space in the card art, like around the circle, and instead just fill that with that beautiful art that you have. And just nothing else to say about that. There were a few things to note. I felt that the amount of cards here is sufficient for quite a few builds. You could easily make about 12 decks in here that are all fairly unique, at least of what I have in this prototype. However, more cards were always better. So while I didn't view this as a negative, or even really a positive, I don't think there was a huge amount here. I think this is very sufficient. But as with most card games, especially ones where you're building decks, the more you have, the better. Additionally, There is mana, there's some cheaper units. For instance, there's an ability to have your card come back into your hand and you can play it for cheaper. But you all have to keep that stuff in your head. There's not a token for it or anything like that. The dev have said that they're looking into that, they're investigating that to see how far they go on that, whether they pull back from that or not. I was personally fine with keeping this in my head. It was all very small numbers, very small things that I was able to keep in my head and talk through my turns with my opponents so they know what I'm doing. And like the mana you make is typically just 5, and I can keep track of if I've spent 5 mana or not quite easily. And so for the most part, it was okay, but some people might get triggered on that. So I wanted to mention that right now, currently in this state, you do have to keep a few bits of information in your head, and there's no counter or token to necessarily do it. So there's nothing stopping you from, using other methods like separating it to a separate, right next to your discard pile, or keeping another counter or something like that, of course, as well. So in summary, I'm going to give this game the largest compliment I can give, and that's the fact that I will be playing this game after this review. I will keep playing this game. It's a very, very fun game. I've enjoyed it a lot. It scratches that Magic the Gathering itch, but it's different in a lot of different ways. I like the realm. I like the little bit of movement. I like the fact that you have to be adjacent to attack and you can't just attack through spells. I like the fact that damage is permanent. I like a lot of the abilities, the fact that you can deactivate a unit and just nullify everything that it has that makes it special. That's super cool to take somebody's super expensive card and make it plain and simple. There's a lot of power in here, a lot of deck variety. Very much enjoyed this game. There are a few flaws. No game is perfect, but for the most part, highly, highly recommended. And that is my review for Esopya. Thanks, guys, and take care.